Hello everyone, my name is Rio Arlita and I'm here to bring a little love and magic to your timeline. This is the Cosmic Wizard Show and today we're going to be talking to Verone Bright. Verone is an oracle from a long line of seers who is trained in acupuncture and witchcraft, and I am super excited to have Verone on for Ophiuchus season, where we're going to be talking about the serpent mysteries. We talk about the energy of Ophiuchus, how to connect with the stars, some of Verone's experience traveling to stargates and being initiated into the serpent mysteries. And we talk about all sorts of stuff. We talk about the dragon energy that was coming through so strongly during the eclipse. We talk numerology. We talk about a lot of things. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I didn't edit it down practically at all. So this one is a long one, but it is worth it, and I can't wait for you to check it out.
Hi, I wanted to wear something sparkly for you, so I did.
Oh, yeah, I love it. It's so nice to properly meet you and speak to you.
Yes, hi. I know. It's like sometimes I forget I haven't met people. I'm just like, what's up? We've known each other for lifetimes, right? Doing the star magic. So
Exactly, right?
Yeah, cool. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for inviting me to do this. I feel honored.
Oh, my pleasure. I've had you in the back of my mind because I haven't done some episodes for a while, but I was like, okay, come Ophiuchus season, you're gonna need to do some, and I've had you in my mind to talk to for this.
Cool. I love that.
Planning, yeah. Okay, well, I was wondering if we could start just by you talking a little bit about your journey to true sidereal.
Okay, yeah, it's interesting. I feel like there's many different components when I think about this journey. The stars are just as important as the earth, and I think that almost it feels like human consciousness is in this fetal stage of existence. And so a lot of times when I say the things aloud, I'm like, this just seems so obvious. It seems so obvious that we should be here. But yeah, my personal journey was, like everyone else, I feel like there's always been astrology in my life ever since I was a little kid. I really identified as a Virgo sun. In my tropical, I'm a Virgo sun. So I really identified with being a Virgo. I remember getting those little keychains at gas stations that would have the constellation of Virgo on it. And and little by little, as I got older, I learned more about astrology. I had more friends who were astrologers. I went to a witchcraft school, so of course astrology was a huge part of that. And I learned more and more and more and more about the tropical system, because you think that's all there is. When people think astrology, they think one thing: it's tropical. And the thing is about astrology, it's limitless. It's like a vast sea of information. It'd be like studying one blade of grass on planet Earth and thinking that's all there is, And so because we're so programmed and the information has been so limited for so long, I thought that, of course, the constellations and the signs were the same thing. I've seen the constellations on the keychains my whole life. I've thought about it. And so I think this was probably, how many years ago? It was some years ago, maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I was with one of my best friends. We were talking on the phone. Her close friend was a sidereal astrologer. And she was like, Verone, do you know that the signs and the constellations aren't the same thing in astrology? And I was like, what? What are we talking about then? Yeah. And it felt like somebody hit me over the head with a cast iron skillet or something. I felt like everything, my whole understanding of what astrology was, the entire framework, every way I was connecting with it, I was connecting to the stars, the constellation. And then I find out later, oh, that's not what it is. And my partner, River, they were in school for astrology. And they were like, oh yeah, they tell us the constellations and the signs, they're not the same. And I'm like, well then literally what the fuck are we talking about? If we're not talking about the constellations on the zodiacal wheel, what are we talking about? So what is it then? What is it? Are we talking about the seasons? I don't think I need to throw shade anywhere, but I just needed clarity. And And from there, it was like everything changed, like everything changed. And my friend and I were like getting more information about like star consciousness, and River was still in school for tropical astrology. So we were like fighting for a little bit, like we were bumping heads about it. And I was just like,
Yeah.
well, what's going on? So then I was like in between the two systems for a while. I was like,
Yeah.
well, my guides kept calling me a synthesizer. And so they're like, you really need to understand why you would be shifting from this to this. Like, why is it that you're going to go into sidereal? And so I really learned a lot about tropical. And then, yeah, like a few years ago, maybe like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I fully like transitioned.
Yeah.
It is like a transition of consciousness because your connection to time is different. Like that's been the biggest thing for me. My connection to time. If you change the clock, you change your reality. Change the clock, you change your reality. And so for me, it connects so much more deeper to the mysteries. And I've already been like a practicing priestess of the occult and Gnostic esoteric information. So it allows me to dive deeper into the hidden mythology that has been like kind of stunted for a while. I feel like mythology like stopped at one point, at least we think it did, but it really didn't. It evolved like everything else. So it's allowed me to go so much deeper into like my esoteric practice. And like, yeah, that's not for everybody, that's not for everybody, and that's okay. But for me, it's like mandatory in order to be able to really connect to that star fire and the star magic. And to me, all this hidden information to me is in the stars. Like there's so much of it there. So yeah, it was a definite like quick kind of like whoa, like an awakening. Like I felt like it was one of my many awakenings that I've had in life. So now it's like it just kind of keeps deepening and deepening all the different nuances within astrology. I mean, I feel like I could study astrology for like
Ever
10,000 lifetimes and still be like, wait, what? We're talking about like the vast multiverse. So like you're never going to get to the bottom of it, So that's kind of like a brief understanding of like how I changed over.
Did you go straight to 13 sign, or did you do like a middle ground period of 12 sign sidereal?
I did a little bit of 12 sign also. I'm sure I'll keep shifting and changing. That's just how I am. I'm a priestess of the snake. And so I'm going to shift and change like my entire life. But yeah, like once I really found out about the serpent handler, about Ophiuchus, it was like my brain exploded because I've been on a deep initiation path with Medusa for the last 8 years. So I have been like walking with Medusa for the last 8 years. So deep in like the serpent mysteries, deep in the healing mysteries. I'm also an acupuncturist and a psychic. And so, so for me, it was like everything came together. And my guides, I do a lot of like meditation of going up into these like different stargates. And once I really was able to meet like Ophiuchus, Medusa, I see them as like interchangeable, like Medusa, Ophiuchus, like many serpent beings lie within the Ophiucan energy. And so once that really came into my consciousness, everything kind of pieced together. And like, I really see it as like the serpent energy running through the tree of life, like opening up to the cosmos. And now it's like I travel into these different stargates with Ophiuchus being like the main gate that ties them all together. So yeah, it all like at this point, I feel like I have this like
a gate to the gate.
Yeah, like, and it's like a completed body of like information. I mean, I know it's not complete because everything ties together, but I understand now what I've been studying for the last like 8 or 9 years. It's brought me like all the way from like my DNA all the way like out to the stars, very much connected to the healing work I do, very much connected to the mythology and the magic that I like dive into. So now I'm like, oh, this is what I've been doing the whole time. I just wasn't aware of it yet. So
okay, so I know that this can be like super personal, but would you be interested at all in sharing sort of like what brought you to Medusa?
Oh yeah, totally. And nothing's really off limits for me to talk about. I feel as though, yeah, I'm a pretty open book, even though I'm like kind of closed and I live in a cave kind of situation. Um, but Medusa came to me. I was like a raging alcoholic, so I come from like a long lineage of extreme addicts, you know. And
Okay.
so I was this like raging alcoholic, even though I was like in grad school for acupuncture. I was like really
Mhm.
still making it work. And I went to a party and I knocked out my front tooth. And it was like pretty horrific because first of all, I looked awful, and it was like so apparent that I had a problem. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, I've been drinking since I was probably, 7 years old. And so I knocked my tooth out. I
Mhm.
was in the bathroom, in the bathtub, laying in my bathtub, and Medusa just came to me. It was like everything went black. And she
Mhm.
came to me and she was like, "You've got two choices here. Like, here are your two choices. This is all. You can keep drinking, and this tooth that got knocked out is like the least of your worries. Like, you're about to go down like a path of no return. Like, it's not gonna be pretty. And
Mhm.
or she's like, or you can just totally quit, completely quit. Like, it was like a light switch. So I
Mhm.
quit drinking. And that was, yeah, I think that was like 8 years ago. I
Mhm.
quit drinking. And from there, like all of the serpent mystery information just started like
Mhm.
flooding in. And it was like so many different layers of it. It's been such a deep healing process. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I work with a lot of different beings. I feel like sometimes I spend more time like beyond the veil than I do here. I think that's my
Yeah.
biggest thing is like you're on earth, you're in a body, like
Yeah.
really stay like
Remember to be in a body.
yeah, like embody the information. You don't have to like leave in order to get it. You can really go in to get it. So
Mhm.
yeah, the Medusa magic and the Medusa mysteries, I just feel it like in every essence of my being, and that I've been doing this for many, many lifetimes. I have past lives of being at the Temple of Delphi, and like so
Mhm.
many past lives of so many different like mysteries. So yeah, that's my like in a brief little
Yeah.
bits my information about Medusa. So it was like almost like
Mhm.
an unavoidable path, even though I'm very grateful that I've been able to like walk this like path and be able to really access this information.
Mhm. This is interesting. I feel like I'm curious about what your perspective of this is, but I feel like a lot of people who actually have like quite psychic sensitivities get caught in those cycles of addiction. Do you
Oh
have any
yeah.
thoughts on that?
Well, I think right now and this I'm 39, so I can
Mhm.
really only speak from like the time period that I was born. I believe
Mhm.
that depending on when you're born, there's different information that we have access to. I really think like the children being born right now are just like, they're
Yeah.
blasted. They're really blasted. I look at my nephew and I'm just like, you are just like, there's nothing really blocking you. And then you
Yeah.
think about like, maybe like, I'll think about like my parents' generation or their parents' generation. So there's different, not that we can't all access the consciousness, but I do think that different generations bring in different kind of ways of perceiving reality.
Mhm.
But we have been in for such a long time this kind of like initiation upon like abuse. Like a lot of people have their like awakening. Like, would I have gone and searched for a deeper meaning to things if I wasn't like, holy shit, my whole world is like rocked and like I've had
Mhm.
so much trauma? Like, would I go searching for more? For me, I was like, this can't be it. This can't be my only reality. Like, what I've gone through can't be the only thing that's out there. So I've like really was like connected to ETs when I was a kid, and really
Mhm.
like searching for more, like more an explanation to something. Like what is the meaning to this? Like, why am I going through such like hardship? Why is there
Mhm.
so much happening? So yeah, I think on one hand there's this like abuse level that comes with it. On the other hand, because I come from a line of seers, like my mother was a seer, but she had addiction problems and she didn't do her healing, and thus like has a lot of issues. And
Mhm.
so I really think that there hasn't been the tools,
Mhm.
society hasn't really accepted it, and so people are like not able to align with like their reality around them. They're not aligned. They're not able to align to like what they're perceiving and what society is telling them they're supposed to perceive. For so long, it's like if you're hearing things and you're seeing things and you're feeling things that other people can't, you
Then
know,
you're crazy.
like then you're crazy, you know.
Yeah.
And that word is like tossed around so much when it's like you're tapping into the energies, like for, yeah, it's the basis of physics. It doesn't even have to be like woo woo at all. It's literally like the basis of quantum physics is like energy can never be destroyed or changed. It's out there. It's all around. So it's like you're talking to like your loved one who passed away. Like, of course you are. They're not destroyed. Their energy's not destroyed. So, but you know, science and like the spirit like world and the psychic world, it's like they're competing, you know, or like science is catching, but it's all one, you know. I really hope for like the age of Aquarius that there's more fusion with like science and like metaphysics and like science and like astronomy and astrology. Like, why are they separate? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. There's been, I think, through the age of Pisces, I think all of the ages has their like light, dark, everything in between. But the age of Pisces is really like compartmentalized things. I think it has a lot to do with like the monotheism and like this being here, this being here, and like, and really everything connects. Like every single thing connects. Even if you think about Western medicine, it's like, okay, your shoulder hurts, the end, that's your shoulder. And it's like, no, your shoulder connects to your head, to your neck. You know, you could have like a little slight movement in like the first vertebrae in your neck, and that could create like pain in your foot. So like everything connects. Same thing like with the earth and with the cosmos, like everything connects. So people are just, there is like a great kind of like awakening that's happening right now over the last couple of years. I really think it's important for like the trauma to come to the surface, because it will unblock those deeper understandings of like how we connect to the energy of the multiverse. So yeah, people are trying to cope. Addiction is a survival like tool. Like I have used substances to survive pretty much most of my life. You know, it's like you can like be in a triggered state and feel like you're going to flip the fuck out and not be able to do anything, and then who takes care of you if you're just like a puddle on the floor? Or you can like take some substances and then go to your food service job and act like everything's fine. Like so many people are doing that, but it doesn't last. It's not, and you can see a lot of things are shifting right now. I think a lot of people are shifting. Like whatever's happened in the last 2 years has really made it like possible for people to be like, wow, I can't keep doing this. Like I can't keep like putting all these things in my body and pretending like everything's okay, because like it's still not okay. Even if I like, it doesn't matter how much you drink or how much you smoke or how much whatever, if you've got that pain inside of you, it's not gonna just magically disappear. So
yeah. Yeah, I think that I feel like forced isolation for some people must be bringing things to the surface that they've been able, whether it's through like substances or whether it's just through going to your job every day, you know, getting up, doing the things, a sudden like interruption of that, I feel like must eventually lead to a lot more people having to like sit and be like, oh, like what is this pain inside of me? Like what is actually happening here? Now I'm in a like forced situation where I need to look at it.
Yeah. And to me, all that you're talking about, that to me is very deep into like the Ophiuchus mysteries. Like you've got to heal yourself. Like that is, if you even look at the modern medicine, Western medicine symbol, it's the staff of Caduceus, like rod of Asclepius, like that's the serpent mysteries. Now, Western medicine isn't doing that, but it's the symbol is still used. So it's like the serpent to me is the deepest like level of healing, because it goes back to the double helix of our DNA. It really goes back to the DNA. And my guides have told me for years that the DNA is starseed. And I know that starseed is one of those words that's like thrown around a lot. And I think it's kind of controversial at this point. Like the word starseed is like, because of Madame Blavatsky, like she wrote, like she was like, she's got some roots in some racism and she wrote about star seeds. But when I take it to like a more biological like standpoint, it's like this part of our body, the deepest part of our cells, in the nucleus of our cells, we have this DNA, and only like 1.5% of it is coded. So like 98.5 to 99% of our DNA is uncoded, which means that I think there's a lot of potential for new ways of being. So that like 1% of our DNA that's coded is it's our genome telling our body what to do. So it goes like DNA, RNA, protein. It allows us to like tell ourselves like how to reproduce, how to be able to like exist and form. But that's only like 1% of our like entire like DNA that's in our body. And for so long, scientists were calling the like 99 or 98.5% of our uncoded DNA just junk DNA. And I'm like, okay, like our DNA is not junk. And just because it isn't coded doesn't mean there isn't this potential
that we can
for
code it ourselves.
I truly believe that. And that's what I believe these star activations are. So when you truly like align to the stars and you work with individual stars, like so let's say with the last eclipse, because it was conjunct, well, Antares was there, but then conjunct Rostaban in the Draco constellation. That's your like opportunity to really activate the DNA star seed within you with the heart of the scorpion and part of the head of the dragon. So you get to like activate those parts in yourself. And so it's so important for us to work with the stars in order to wake up the star material within us. Like our bodies are literally made of earth and stars. Like, you know, when people are like, we're made of stardust, it's like, we literally are. Like, that is science.
That's what the Big Bang was, right?
Yes. And so when you activate that, like those minerals within you, they like wake up, you know? So people are like, wake up, everyone wake up. You know, it's like, well, yeah, you're not just waking up your brain, you're waking up your bones, your blood, your ligaments, your muscles, like all those parts of your DNA, you know, you're waking up your cells. And if you can really like get yourself activated on a cellular level, you know, those every single cell in your body is like a member of your divine coven. And so like you're the high priestess, high priestess, like high priest, and you want your team working like with you and for you. So I see that it's so powerful to have these star activations. Like this is like, I'm always thinking about this all the time. And the more I go into it, and I feel like I know just a tiny bit, you know, there's so many stars out there. And once you start working with them, and using like sigils and the different symbols that go with these stars, like things change for sure. I'm like noticing a lot of changes in my life.
So for people that want to do this, like, how do you recommend they do this?
Okay, well, you know, there are the 15 Bahenian stars that were used in medieval astrology. That's easy to find. You can just Google search it and you can find like an herb that comes with it, a stone that goes with it, and the symbols, the sigils that go with it. So, you know, say you want to call in the power of Antares, you know, enter at your own risk for certain things because like you're amplifying. So if you're ever doing any kind of magic, it's amplifying it, but you can draw out that sigil, put it on the altar and say like, I'm calling to Antares to bring up like the heart of my pain. Like this is what I was doing. Actually, I've got an altar outside, like bring up the heart of my pain so that I can transmute it, like really bring it up. So you could do that and use that symbol to call in the power of Antares to bring up like that deep rooted pain in your heart so that you can open up your heart more and activate your heart chakra. So, you know, because like those chakras, those are our portals for time travel. For me, like the chakras are the portal for time travel, and you want to be able to have those really open and clear. So I love altar magic. I've been doing altar magic for like forever. And so writing these sigils down, you can either like, you can go outside and like have them like illuminated in the moonlight. And the more you work with things, the more you're going to get to know like what they are, because the information that's out there, I think is pretty limited, especially when it comes to the stars. A lot of it is very archaic too. I'm not saying that it's wrong. It's just that we're talking about stars. There's so much information out there. So working with it to see what comes up from it. I think every single one of us has a piece of the information. So I don't really think there's a right or wrong way to practice your like magic and spirit work, you know, like do it. A lot of it's trial and error. Like I've done things where I'm like, okay, well, maybe I went a little too far with that, but that's how you learn, you know? So I think like writing the sigil down. Like, I mean, I do a lot of blood magic. Like I work with like, I'll use lancets and use my blood or use my spit, or like I do a lot of like primal magic. That might not be for everybody, but like, again, if you use your body fluids, it's going to really amplify it. So just, know what you're going into, like,
Yeah.
and if it's ever too much, be like, okay, I'm going to close all of this down and like let it go to rest. Like if you feel like everything is like chaos, you can always like rest it. We have the power to say yes or say no. Nothing is necessarily doing it for us. I really do believe strongly in like our own personal like sovereignty and autonomy. And so, yeah, I really using the stones, using the sigils, like, and even just connecting with the stars, like researching about them, going and finding them in the night sky, being like, oh, okay, there it is. There's the Pleiades. I'm going to talk to the Pleiades. I can see them right there. They're like right in front of me. So that to me is the biggest difference in working like sidereal, true sidereal 13 sign, is that you just have such a connection to the actual sky that's outside. And in this digital world that we're moving into, it's so important for us not to forget about like the world around us. Yeah, I think they could be a really cool balance between like the digital world and nature, like where nature and the digital world come together in harmony. But if you go too far into the screen, you're gonna forget everything, just like if you went way far in the woods and you're like, no internet for me, no cell phones, you're not going to understand what's going on with that. But I do see a meeting point where everything can kind of come together in harmony. But it takes awareness, because like the screen can suck your like brain out sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. You find that often, well, I'll put it like this. I find often, and this is something that was actually taught to me by a Christian woman, was that like often all that you need to do is like say it out loud, say it by name and say it out loud.
Yeah, well, words are spells. That's why it's called spelling, and so I really think there is a power of like using that throat and using that voice to like manifest it out or call it out. So I think that is one part that can really like do something. You could just like say the star's name, or like, really speak it into manifest, and that's going to do something too. This is information that hasn't been worked with for like a long time. Like the star information has been like kind of dormant for a while in our consciousness, but as you can see, it's like the resurgence of it is like coming back. I think within the next like 5 years, like I don't think we're going to have one dominating astrology anymore. I just don't think it's possible. I really see there's like more and more people are like, because they're like, they can feel it, they can feel it in their bodies. They're like, oh wow, like this feels right to me, or like, why am I gravitating towards here? It's like, because like we are the ETs, we are the star beings. And so for us to be able to reconnect to the parts of us, like for me, like part of me lives in the Pleiades. Actually, like in the Pleiades, I'm this being called JR, like we talk to each other, and they're like a surgeon. So when I am doing healing work on people, I'm able to like remove dense energy from their body. And I'm doing this by connecting to myself in the Pleiades. So it's like, we're talking about multidimensional energy. It doesn't have to be fixed to any one place. So the more that we're able to reconnect to the stars, the more that we kind of rejoin space. Earth isn't just like this isolated place that like isn't in the universe. Yeah. And like for so long with like past astrology, there was like, they thought that the earth was the complete center of the entire universe. And so we know that that's not true anymore. And it's just so important for us to like come back into community with our star beings. Like I'm excited to be like, oh, look, there's like a UFO. It's the Pleiades. They're going back home. I think that should be kind of like a normal part of our daily life. Like it shouldn't be like just humans, the end. Like I just think that, to me, I've just never understood that. I've always been so connected to like aliens and ETs, just because I'm like, why would there just be us in this gigantic, ever expanding and contracting universe? Like it just doesn't even make sense, it'd be the same as like, we have cows on Earth, the end, only cows. It's like, no, we've got so many different like varieties and species of animals, the same as like as above, so below. It's like such a true statement. So yeah, I don't remember how we started on this, but I have a lot of I'm in my Neptune square right now. I'm in my Pluto square, which is ending on Christmas Eve. And so I've been in it for the
Oh,
last 2 years. And my tropical um sometimes I have a lot of friends who are tropical astrologers. So I guess
yeah.
maybe sometimes I still dance in between and like I
Mhm.
want to respect all people's like professions and ways of
Mhm.
life. And like I kind of like don't really like the fighting aspect of it. To me, it like kind of just I'd rather just learn more. Like I'm
Mhm.
more about learning more. So on the eclipse was my tropical ending of my Pluto square, but my sidereal is Christmas Eve. And so I've been in this for like the last
Oh.
2 years, and it's been like my Pluto's in my first house. So I've been like, I
Oh.
am I am Pluto, like, and it's
Mhm.
also I have a yod in my chart. So and Pluto's part of my yod. So it's activated that. And so now I'm going into my Neptune square. So it's like Neptune
So Pluto's
square.
just ending and Neptune is starting.
Yes, and it's Neptune square conjunct my moon. So my Neptune is in Ophiuchus. So like
Uh-huh.
I'll be like rocking the Ophiuchus energy. And so
Mhm.
I'm kind of like sometimes I like don't know exactly like where I'm at. Like my partner makes fun of me a lot. They're just like, "Do you even know where you are?" I'm like, Earth. Like I think I'm doing Earth this life."
Well, that's exciting. Lots of transformation. Holy crap.
Dude, Pluto square. You're younger
No.
than me. You haven't gone through your Pluto square.
Yeah, I'm 31, so
Okay. Well,
yeah.
you'll get to, and
But I've
like
got
nothing.
Pluto first house too, actually.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Well, that makes sense. You've kind of got that like Pluto look like come through you, which I find that as a compliment. Like I
Yeah.
think people often think I'm asked if I'm a Scorpio, and I'm just like, no, I'm Pluto first house, and like
Yeah.
that's really gonna like shine through. So, but that's like power, like your
Mhm.
empowerment, like bringing it in through your first house. So I like it. I think it can have some challenges, but ultimately, like I feel it strong, especially after the last 2 years of just so much Pluto.
Yeah. It's constant change.
Yeah, and a lot of like the death being was with me really strong for the last 2 years. It was like the Grim Reaper was with me every single day. And I'm like, okay, I'm
Mhm.
either like dying or something on me is dying. And so
Yeah.
something on me has been dying, but it was definitely like I sunk to like, I was just even physically heavy. Like it was hard for me to get up really a lot in the last 2 years. And now that it's moving off, I'm like, oh, like I'm feeling like my energy's coming back. I'm like, oh yeah, like I can get up, like I can move around. It's like it really I can already like feel the shifts of it so much. I think the more you go into astrology, the
Mhm.
more you feel the transits.
Mhm.
Like you feel them more, even though you can prepare for them,
Yeah.
you aren't going to be like avoiding them at all. To me, it's like I
Mhm.
feel them even stronger. It's like, okay, I'm having this Pluto square, but I'm just when I'm in it, I'm just like, I am Pluto, like leave me alone. And
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
I'm feeling it more and more. It's like I am becoming these like planetary energies and these stellar energies. And so it's awesome, but
Yeah.
definitely an interesting journey. You have to be able to like have your life set up to be able to like support that. And I'm grateful that I work for myself. So I'm like, if I need to be like, I got to lay down today because I'm like dissolving, I can. So
Is that going to be your next couple years with Pluto just dissolving?
what? Well,
You
I
were
already
you were
did
heavy and dying, and now you're dissolving into nothing.
because of Neptune.
Yeah.
Maybe I think it's going to be a lot of like art. That's what I'm
Yeah.
seeing. Like a lot of my art, because my yod is my moon is the apex point in my sixth house,
Mhm.
Pluto in the first, Venus in the 11th, and I just think it's going to have a lot to do with like my artistry.
Oh,
So I'm
okay.
excited for that. Yeah.
So is it squaring? Is the transit conjunct your moon, or do you have natal Neptune conjunct moon?
No, I have transiting Neptune conjunct my natal moon. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I see.
And my moon is Pisces. So
Gotcha.
yeah. So it's already a lot of Neptune-y
Is
kind of
that a
energy.
pattern in your family? Like Neptune and Pisces moon?
I don't know. I don't know. The only person I really talk to in my family is my one sister. I'm like
Wow.
estranged from a lot of family members, but
Mhm.
I have been thinking about if I can pull up some of their charts. I don't have a lot of birth times or things like
Yeah.
that, but I bet, I haven't studied like lineage astrology, but
Yeah.
I bet you there's like common like patterning. I think that would be
Yes.
cool.
I bet. When you said that there's like a history of seers in your family, that's one of the things I thought of.
Yeah, and addicts, which makes me think of both too. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm curious. I don't know. Maybe that's something I'll dive into at some point to see.
Might be tricky without birth times and stuff, but
Yeah.
okay. Wow. We've talked about so many things. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me think here. You've already pretty much answered all of the questions that I had for you.
Uh-huh.
Um, do you find that okay, well here's a question for you. Not just for curiosity's sake, we don't need to like fight or anything, but
Uh-huh.
for you personally, midpoints or IAU boundaries?
You know, I'm seeing people talk about this a lot and fighting about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I am such a like, to me, it's like both. That's kind of how I feel. Both. I think when you cast a chart, you have to make a choice. When you
Mm-hmm.
cast a chart, you have to make a choice. What signs, are you using whole house? Like, are
Mm-hmm.
you using tropical? Are you using 13? Are you using, like there's
Yeah.
so many. So you have to make a choice. And I think depending on the choice that you make are the results you're going to get. For me, it's like, okay, we cannot cut up the serpent goddess. I know that. We can't cut her up. Like, I know people are like, she's got two legs. It's like, well, yeah, she was not a one-legged serpent goddess. It's
Yeah.
like, we can't cut her up, but we also can't look away from the fact that Scorpio is still there too. At some point,
Mm-hmm.
Scorpio, Ophiuchus, and Sagittarius all come together. That's the
Mm-hmm.
galactic center. So it's like, you've got all three of them there at that
Mm-hmm.
point. So to me, it's like, I think if I was going to cast a chart,
Mm-hmm.
I would incorporate more Ophiuchus.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I would use because I'm so dedicated to Medusa and she's been cut up too much in her life, her existence. She's been beheaded and her body's been discarded. So I think it's really important. Also, Ophiuchus needs like time to shine because
Mm-hmm.
it's bit. So many people are so mad about people are like, so mad about Ophiuchus. I think you saw the like fight or whatever that people were. I don't understand what people are like fighting about, why they're so mad
Yeah.
about Ophiuchus, but I would but I think the midpoints are important too
Mm.
because Scorpio is still there. It's like, how can you do both? It's hard for me because I'm more of like, I'm really feeling the energy. I love
Yeah.
reading charts, but I'm more into like the astrological theory and like really feeling it and diving into the magic and the mythology. So like,
Mm.
even if I was to cast a chart incorporating more of Ophiuchus, I would still talk about Scorpio too, because like, if you look at the stars, you can see that they're all kind of like there together. So and then you could even talk about, I like constellations off the ecliptic too. I think they're very
Mm.
cool. And so, it's like a blending, but I definitely felt for the eclipse, I was really focused on Ophiuchus, but I also was working my Antares altar outside. So like,
Oh,
like,
okay.
so I don't know if that's like a vague answer. I don't think I can say like this or
Yeah.
this.
No, that's
It-
totally
we're
fair.
yeah, I mean, we're talking about like huge cosmic energies. It's hard to be like,
Mhm.
they end right here. I think
Mhm.
people want that. People like to
I
have
want it
like,
to be so
it's
neat,
this. Yeah, it's
right?
not neat. It's not neat. I mean, even the like equal like 12 sign system is like supposed to
Mhm.
be neat. I get it
Yeah.
mathematically, it makes it easier, but like
Yeah, mathematically
you
it makes it so neat. I remember I used to be on board for like there is no cusp, but that's not true. Sometimes it's just
yeah.
between the energies. And
Well, I
that
see the whole zodiacal wheel, like
Mhm.
especially following the sun. Like I've been doing this for like years. It's
Mhm.
like an initiation, it's like a whole year initiation. And as you're moving
Mhm.
from one constellation body of stars to the next, it's going to be different. So like when you're moving from Scorpius into Ophiuchus, there's going to be this blending, and they're both poison. They're both the poison path. So like whether you're getting bit by the serpent or stung by the scorpion, that's still
Mhm.
the like poison is medicine. That
Yeah.
that power
Mhm.
versus like when we move into Sagittarius, that energy is different when you go from like that death and dying and transformation and shedding skin and then into the centaur. That's going to be a different vibe. Also, like when you move from like the Cancer constellation into Leo, that's a different vibe versus like when you're going in between Aquarius and Capricorn. There's similarities to me there because they're both like there's aquatic water beings to them. Like there's water to it. So, you know, whether it's like the sea goat or the like water bearer or the fountain, it's like, I just think for me, it's really important to connect to the energy. Like astrology isn't a piece of paper. It's not a program in your computer. You know, it's this vast, like quantum energy that's all around. So I felt both. But if I'm, you know, for casting a chart, I would incorporate more Ophiuchus just because I think it's important, or I would do two charts, you know, maybe I'd do two to look at both or something. So I know that people like to fight about everything, but I think that everyone can be like right and everyone can be wrong. You know, I do believe that like two things that oppose each other can both be true. You know, we live in a world of paradoxes anyways. And so maybe that answers your question.
Yeah, that's true for sure. Everyone likes to think that there's one single truth, and that is just not the case, right?
No, and truth, like truth changes. Like think about what your truth was like 10 years ago. That might not be your truth anymore. And that's true for everything. So like even to be like, this is it, like energy is not fixed. Energy is always moving. If something is fixed, if something stops moving, it's dead. You know, like think about us, like we've got these systems in our body with like our circulatory system and our digestive system. And even when we're sleeping, when we're not moving, we're moving, everything's moving inside of us. So like energy is always moving and changing. Like the only thing that we can really count on is change. And that is definitely true, like in the cosmos. So like truth is, there is no one, there's a whole, I think the people saying right now, like truth, the word truth is coming up so much right now. It's like the truth, find the truth, like find the truth. And it's like, the truth for now, it's going to be different like later. I mean, what people thought, like even what science thought truth was like 50 years ago, now it's like complete opposite. So like, what is truth? You know, like I think truth is like a vibration and you're like shifting and changing. You know, I look back at some of my Facebook posts from like even a year ago and I'm like, cringe, like that's what I thought, you know. It's like my truth, and in that moment that was my truth, but like my truth has changed. And so like we have to be able to let things shift and change, and also like know that other people have different truths. Like we don't need to enforce our truth on others, and that, you know, we don't need to like try to take people's willpower and be like, this is the truth and so you have to do it this. If somebody wants to like,
if it is really the truth, then other people should be able to find their own way to it. Right?
Yeah, I think ultimately we all are kind of like searching for the same thing.
But you know, I feel like that's a good like energy to hold when you find yourself in that space of like feeling like we need to control people around us and bring them to our truth.
Yeah, I don't want to bring somebody to my truth. Like I want to stand there, like I don't need somebody else sitting on my like throne. I don't need somebody sitting in my center. I don't need to like gather people into like the core of my truth. That's my place. You know, it'd be like bringing everybody like into one small room or something. Like that's how we grow consciousness, by everybody like exploring their own like truths. And I really think that we're growing consciousness a lot by reconnecting to the stars, because we're stretching, you know, instead of like the energy going up into like the atmosphere, you know, or just like kind of where the signs reside. I'm not quite sure where energetically the signs reside. They kind of in tropical, like it almost feels like more seasonal energy. So like it encapsulates the earth in this like seasonal energy. But when you connect like, you know, true sidereally, you stretch consciousness. You're able to like go further into the cosmos. I mean, I love the constellations like in the southern hemisphere. I've been studying those a lot. So it's like, even though I don't live there, it's like, well, I want to connect to that. So you know, it's limitless. And I think as we like evolve as species, we'll like continue learning more. I mean, we didn't even think all of the planets in our solar system, they weren't even around forever. You know, we've been discovering them, and there's more. We'll keep discovering things that might have been like right there the whole time. We just like weren't ready for it, you know?
Yeah.
I think
Wow,
with the
that
like,
buzzes all over my body.
right? I know that's why I love connecting to Sedna. You know Sedna?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know,
A
that like
little bit, yeah.
she's like deep ocean consciousness. I mean, to me, she's like the consciousness of like whales. So like as Sedna is like closer to Earth, I
Mm-hmm.
think that consciousness is really coming in. So like these planets and
Is
these
Sedna closer to
stars,
Earth right now? Because
yes.
I've been seeing like articles pop up all over the place about like huge whale pods that have never been seen, stuff like
Oh,
that.
cool.
Like
Yeah.
largest
See?
populations that we've seen for a long time style stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that that's really cool. You know, it's like these planets, stars, constellations,
Mhm.
they have a consciousness just like your lungs have consciousness, your liver has consciousness. It's like it all connects at some point. This is why I love Chinese medicine so much, why I studied acupuncture, because it's literally saying the same thing. I went to witchcraft school and I went to grad school for Chinese medicine at the same
Yeah.
time. I'm like, they're saying the same thing. Same with astrology. It's like all telling me like fundamentally the same thing. And as you like become more conscious, you become more conscious, and then you're not ruled by your unconscious. So you're not like making these you're able to have more autonomy over your life. You know, I don't even want to
Yeah.
say control. You're able to just have more presence, you know, instead
Yeah.
of being like, I don't know why I've been doing this for the last 20 years. It's like you become conscious of it. You're like, oh, this is why I hurt people, because like I'm hurt, you know? And
Yeah.
so
You
these
can see
planets
things, but
and
as soon as you can actually see things, that's the moment where you're like in the driver's seat. You can be like, oh, okay,
yeah,
let's
yeah,
fix
and you
that.
want to be in the
Fix it.
driver's seats. You don't
But
want,
you
because
know, you have
something
to
else
fix
will
it that
drive
way.
you.
Exactly, right?
I
These
don't
like
need
unconscious
something else
forces.
driving my avatar. You know, I want to
Mhm.
be like, okay, or just like your energy in general. So it's like, yeah, when you become conscious of it, you're able to like, I see that as like really working with the number 10. I love numerology too. I've been doing,
Oh, I
yeah.
would love to hear your thoughts on the number 10, actually. That's been coming up in my
Okay.
life.
My North Node is Gemini and my Mercury is on my ascendant. So I'm kind of just like, like at all times, you know, I
Yeah.
try to like bring it down, but yeah, numerology is really cool. The number 10, I'm actually living in a house where our address comes out to the number 10.
I'm
And
about to move into a house that's a number 10.
oh, okay. Are you?
Yeah.
So you'll feel it. Like I
Okay.
felt it the minute River and I moved in here. It was like
Yeah.
instantaneous. I'm like, okay, we're in the 10. Because like
Yeah.
the wheel moves, you know,
Yeah.
the wheel moves. And if you're familiar with tarot,
Mhm.
the wheel of fortune, it's
Mhm.
like sometimes you may feel like you're on top of the wheel, sometimes you're feeling like you're getting crushed by the wheel. It's like
Yeah.
the wheel of karma, the wheel of time, the zodiacal wheel, you know, so many
Yeah.
wheels. But ultimately, I believe with the wheel is like you want to find the most center point of the wheel where it doesn't move. You know, you want to be able to stand in the center where it doesn't move so that you can see 360 degrees around you and know that you have so many choices. Like a lot of times people like they are only seeing like a fraction of the wheel. So they're like,
Mhm.
okay, my choice is this or this. Like we've been living in this binary world where like, I'm either going to choose boy or girl. I can choose like Democrat or Republican. I could choose
Yeah.
pro or anti. And it's like, you don't just have two choices, especially
Yeah.
on the wheel, especially on this vast wheel. And so
Mhm.
to me, it's been like mastering center, like really mastering center to this place where you're not being like, in the spin cycle of the washing machine. You know, when
Yeah.
you're in that chaos energy, you feel like you're spinning out of control because you energetically you literally are. But if you can find that center place of like stillness, you can see like all these different choices like around you. So I've been practicing that a lot. We've had so many altars in this house to the number 10 and wheel. And it's a powerful, you know, it's one of the first symbols that like ever was to
Mhm.
humans, you know, the wheel, like
Mhm.
the invention of the wheel. I don't know if it was invented. I think it was just like we realized that it existed because
Yeah.
you know this power of this like circular energy of these cycles. So yeah, as you move into a house of 10, I would say um you know, work on, have a center altar, have an altar like dedicated to center, because like I do think it creates like movement, you know, it creates movement. So yeah, I've been in this house for a year, that's a 10, and I'm feeling more like okay. But at first it was like it was chaos. At first I felt pure
Okay.
chaos. And so, you know, sometimes you have to feel one extreme to go to the next. But
Yeah.
yeah, I love the number 10. I don't know if I would buy a house with the number 10. I don't know if
Yeah.
that would be a choosing for me, but I think that it's really cool. And it's like, even in tarot, it's like the ending back to the beginning, like in the
Mhm.
minor arcana, you know, you've got the 10 going back to the ace again. So it's like
Yeah.
a completion energy too. You know, it's
Well,
this.
it feels really fitting, this move for us, because I think it's going to be my last like rental home.
Uh-huh.
And it's like a sort of like a stop way point before I actually like buy a place.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think same here. Like
Yeah.
same here. I think this is our last place that we'll rent before we buy, and I think that that feels really fitting to
Mhm.
get to the have the 10
Right.
before you settle in to something. But I
Mhm.
really like, you know, if people want to do this, you can do numerology for anything. You know, you can look at the address of your house. You can take your phone number. You can take your social security number. You
Yeah.
can do the like the year that you're in, your birthday, so you can do
Yeah.
your month, day, and the year that we're currently in for, and you can have that number for the year. You can do your life path number. You can reduce any number down to like a primary number, and I just
Mhm.
think that to me it's really awesome, and I've loved studying numerology and
Mhm.
really like feel, you know, every, to me that's like the dragon language is like mathematical code. So like
Oh, okay.
going into this last eclipse, which was
Mhm.
aligned to Rostaban and the
Mhm.
Draco constellation. I mean, serpent is like an aspect of dragon, anyways, and
Mhm.
like, I was very much like I'm in a dimension. That's how I felt. It wasn't
Right.
even like I'm on Earth. It was like I'm living in a plane of existence. And I've gone to this place before where it's like almost like the Matrix, you know, it's just like coding
Yeah.
and like mathematical coding. And like we are code. That's what our DNA is. It's like
Mhm.
we're code and the universe is code, and like computers and the internet and technology is just mimicking what we are and what the universe
Mhm.
is. We've become conscious of it because it already exists, you know, we're
Yeah.
just pulling it in from the void. So I do think there's like a mastery of the video game, like a mastery of the coding. You know,
Yeah.
I've been really just like how to unlock the codes to be able to like get out of the like controlling matrix and like
Mhm.
into like my own flow. I really think there's something to it. We've been told for so long, work this job, do this thing. And it's like, it's just not it, you know, it's not it. And I really think that there's something to that, like dragon code. And also Draco is like one of the pole constellations, like guarding the poles. So there's just like a few
Mhm.
constellations up there guarding the poles. At one point, Thuban in the Draco constellation uh was our like North Star. You know, right now it's Polaris. I think next is going to be Vega. So these pole
Oh,
constellations, I think, are like
interesting.
really cool. You know, they're the guardians of our pole. So the dragon is like one of the guardians. So
Mhm.
I really think, and even like thinking about people talking about like reptilian, like the reptilians, like
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I love conspiracy theories. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Like some of them, have information. Some of them are just kind of like nonsense, but that's the
Yeah.
point. It's like there's always information. It's like hide it in the sea. You know, they always hide information like in the visible like place. So like it's always hidden in plain sight. That's what I'm trying to say. And
Mhm.
so even the idea of like the reptilians, and
Mhm.
you know, maybe there are like giant like reptile beings like living in the core of the earth or something. I don't know, I've never been down there,
That's something
but
that's been like really gaining force, like over the past
yeah,
5 years, majorly,
yeah. And I really see like how I connect to that energy. I mean, maybe there are, I don't know, I don't know, I've never gone deep within the earth and looked for like the reptilian race. Like I'm not saying yes and I'm not saying no, but for me
Yeah,
it's like really connects us to our reptilian brain, which
I
is
agree.
the
Mhm.
oldest structure in our brain, right by the medulla, like the brain stem. And so that's like
Yeah,
our primal brain, you know, that keeps us in like the sympathetic nervous system of fight or flight. It's like the primal mode. What makes us eat, what makes us like fight, what makes us
mhm.
like fuck, you know, it's like all these things. And like we need to integrate that part because we can't
Yeah,
just be like, you know, raw dog in reality, like triggered all the time. Like we
yeah,
have to be able to, it's important to have the primal brain, the reptilian brain. If someone's coming after you with a knife, you're not just going to be like, oh goddess, like everything's, you know, you're going to want to get up and run, but we
yeah.
don't need to be like running all the time. We don't need to be like always like in these like places of like the primal energy. Like
Mhm.
I think we need to anchor the primal energy and integrate the primal energy, but it doesn't need to like take over the brain. You know, people who are like, I have to make as much money as possible, I'm going to get all the money, they're like ruled by their primal brain because they're like, they can't, because it's just like need,
Yeah,
want, you know, there's not enough. And so I really think that that to me is like everything kind of comes down to biology for me, probably because I have like a medical background. But if you can understand your own form, you'll
Yeah.
be able to understand like everything around you. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, maybe, who knows? Like maybe there will be some like reptile beings come out of the earth, like whatever. I'm
Yeah.
not scared of it. I think,
There's
it kind
other
of goes back.
theories that they're like aliens too,
Oh,
right?
The Anunnaki.
Okay.
Well, they come to me in my dreams, so maybe
Yeah.
there's something to that. Before I ever knew anything about Anunnaki, I was having dreams about these beings screaming out Anunnaki. And so I started
Really.
to research about them. But the Anunnaki were the deity from ancient Sumeria, like in
Okay.
Mesopotamia, in the Fertile Crescent, like the first civilizations that happened between like Mesopotamia and Egypt.
Okay.
And they were the seven like gods, goddesses of ancient Sumeria. So they're literally like written about in like historical texts.
Mhm.
And Inanna is one of them. Like, so I don't
Okay.
know if you connect to, if you
Oh,
know
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Inanna.
Uh-huh.
Inanna's one of them. Ea or Anki, who was like supposed to be Capricorn, is one of them.
Okay.
So, and those are the two that I've worked with the most. But
Yeah.
so there's seven of them, and so there's something to it. There is
Yeah.
something to it, and they're supposed to be like possibly from that planet Nerubu or Planet X, which
Oh, yeah,
has
yeah,
that
yeah.
really big, like elongated orbit. So I think I'm trying to remember what the orbit is like around our sun.
Mhm.
Something like huge, like really, like maybe it's 36,000 years or something like that. It's a
Yeah.
really long, like elongated orbit. So it like comes close to
Wasn't it
Earth and then,
supposedly close not that long ago?
yes, that's what I've heard too. And like maybe they're returning and like maybe they are, I don't know. It's like, I think whenever we fear anything, we give
Yeah.
it like over too much power. So like, for me, it's like if the Anunnaki do come back, they come into my dreams. I'm sure I'm connected to them. Like, maybe I'm a part of them too. Maybe we all are. Who knows? There's so
Yeah.
much that we don't know, but um, it's very fascinating because you can go back in history and see these beings that were worshipped. And I think that if there were like star beings that came from this other planet that has this really long orbit, that maybe they live for like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. To us, to humans who like have a lifespan of like, maybe 100 years, they're going to seem like they're gods and deity because they like seem immortal. But I don't
Yeah.
think like I think our energy is immortal, but like,
Yeah.
I think everything, that's like the idea of like God, it's like, to me, like the word just means like literally everything that's ever existed. So
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating. Who knows what will happen over the next some years? Like, but yeah, the reptilian thing is like really popping right now. People are
It is.
like
Yeah.
fairly, and I think that it's interesting. Like, I think all of it's interesting.
I did a wild meditation once that like brought me like super, super, super deep within myself. And I got to a point where I was in like reptile time.
Oh
Like
yeah.
the like space of time. And I could like feel coils all around me. And it was just like
Whoa.
one of the most like profound experiences I've had. And that I feel like kind of brought me like it didn't necessarily seem connected at the time, but I'm sure that that was like the first kind of step on like bringing me towards this actually.
Wow. Was that a meditation that you like listened to a meditation, or you just kind of went into your own experience?
It was a live thing. I went to like this drop-in meditation thing and like the visuals that the person who was leading it used was just like you're following like a stream of water down into yourself, and like the deeper down I went, time both like slowed and expanded at the same time, and by the time I was like in that place, silence was like so loud, and it was just this like wild space where I was like, "Oh, like I'm within the like snake inside of me basically."
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I love that. Yeah, time is like, we have no idea about time at all. I
Mhm.
feel like time is, I'm always, especially when you align to different things. Like the only reason we think it's, what's today, Friday? The only reason we think it's like Friday, December 10th, I think that's what day it is
Yeah,
because we're given this like Gregorian calendar. But
yeah,
like, who's to say that that's even, that's just based on, I mean, it's mostly based on like the Catholic Church, I think. So it's like, who's, what is time? Like, what day is it really? What year is it really? Like, where are we really? And so to me,
It's
I
a rule
love
that we've made up that we keep following.
it is. And I really think that like I like to be kind of like outside of time. I like to not look at the clock, and I like not to do that. I mean, you have to build your life to be able to do that. I haven't always been able to do that. I worked food service for like 20 years. I definitely couldn't be outside be outside of time, because I had to like go and be on someone else's clock. And I really think that's what we've been doing so long, is like we are giving over our time to another person's interpretation of time. Like when somebody gives you a schedule, they're like, here's your work schedule. You work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. You literally have just given up your like internal clock. You've given up your time. And so everybody's interpretation of time is different. And that like primal, like primordial, like serpent reptilian energy, I mean, it does go back to that. I mean, there were like the dinosaurs, they were reptiles, like the ancient beings really were like reptilian. And like think about like crocodiles and alligators. They're so old. They come to be in my dreams a lot. And so like it's really cool. And I think that when we integrate those parts of ourselves, those like primal reptilian, those ancient parts of ourselves, we're able to become like a more whole being. I really don't think it's just about like ascend, descend, like ascend to where are we going? It's like, are we running? Yeah, we're like running up this ladder somewhere to what, So I think it's like, it really is kind of about like an arriving and like an expanding. And so, I mean, and maybe there is like, maybe it's kind of this like, spiral energy, but I think there's a lot of that going on right now, like ascend, descend, descend. And I'm just like, well, what happens if you fall from that and you don't have like your base cord? Like yin and yang theory in Chinese medicine is like the yin is the anchor to the yang. The yin is a more dense material and the yang is like lighter. And so, and they're always changing into one another. So I love Chinese medicine theory because it kind of is like the basis for reality and consciousness in our universe. So you have to have all of it, you have to have a little bit of the density along with the spirit, or like if we just keep ascending, well, eventually would be nothing. If we like ascend and like remove density is eventually we would just become vaporous, like vapor, and then we would like vaporize and we would disappear. So maybe that's the goal, is to like completely disappear.
But it's kind of the goal, right?
Like, you think? I'm not done. I'm not done yet. I want to still be here.
I mean, I'm not saying that it's my goal or it should be the goal, but I feel like it kind of is the goal to this whole like ascend. I feel like really people are like just trying to get back to their like light being, but it's like it's not really going to happen until you die.
Well, I mean, I think our light being is here because our nervous system is like a series of like synapses, and our DNA actually does make biophotons. So they do make biological light particles. I think the only reason that we can't, some people can see other people glow, but I think if we were like deep down in the bottom of the ocean or something where there is no light, if you've ever gone into like a pitch black cave, it would not take you long to start hallucinating. Now, are you hallucinating, or are you literally seeing like light beings that you couldn't see before because there's so much light pollution? There's so much light pollution. So I think that the light bodies are here. We just have to,
I mean, they're definitely here, and like we can also like take little adventures with them, right? Like like going to visit stargates and stuff like that. But on some level, they're still like anchored into the body.
I mean, the physical body as we know it right now does have some limitations, but I do think that like our human technology has so much to be explored. That's why it's important to have that balance between like the digital world and nature, because like you don't want the screen doing everything for you. You don't want the like chip in the brain and like the contact that allows you to be in virtual reality, when like we have the ability to like have telepathy. We can really like use our nervous system to communicate with the earth. Like for me, I've been doing a lot of that, really clearing my nervous system so that I can like unplug from like whatever I was doing and like plug back into earth and like get messages from like talk to my ancestors through the trees, like hear information like in the wind, like really being able. And to me it's like scientific, because I'm like, oh, I am like connecting to the electricity of the earth, the electromagnetism of the earth into my electromagnetism, and so I can like receive this like higher consciousness that maybe wasn't available to me because my nervous system was so fried. So many of our nervous systems are just like frizzled and fried out, and like it's going to be challenging to hear anything because it's just going to be like raw and inflamed. So yeah, move through the inflammation, you'll be able to really like connect more to the like subtle energies that actually can become quite loud. Like
Yeah.
I can hear trees, like full conversations with trees. Like I'm like, you are my ancestors. You're the time beings. You've got the rings of time inside of you. You're connected down into the earth. You're reaching up to the stars. You're just like us.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's fun. I had a tree like shout at me the other day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, okay. It was between the eclipse gates, and this tree was like, hey, like you, come here. And I was like, okay, like I'll slow down, I'll sit down at your roots. And then it brought me, it was like, hey, there's like this other dragon that wants to talk to you too, because that was happening at the first eclipse. I invited the dragons in. I was just like, you know what, this on like an instinctual level, I was like, I feel like it's time. And then yeah, this tree helped another one come in.
That's so cool. I love that. Yeah. And what is, am I allowed to ask you questions?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. What is the dragon energy for you like?
Well, it's interesting. As soon as I invited it in, there was like a water dragon who has been like very, very easily accessible ever since. And and he's just like, well, I say he, but it's like it's kind of that's sort of just like short form. He's sort of like nothing and everything all at once, right? But I can just like ask them whatever I want, and they're just sort of there, kind of as a helper spirit.
Uh-huh.
And then the other one that the tree helped bring in is like much more of a fire dragon, and like wants humans to start like inviting dragons more in, like they're slumbering, it feels like, and they want to be woken up, and they want to come and help and just like be more part of this realm again, but they need to be recognized and like called on a little bit. And that was my sort of experience. And like throughout that, I was having my own like shedding and like transformation happening, but very, very grounding, I found the energy to be.
Yeah, I see I've connected a lot that the archangels are the dragons. I've seen that in visions where the archangels are the dragons, and I see the archangels as the beings that help with the celestial mechanics of our like at least our galaxy and like beyond. And so we can think everything is like pure chaos here on earth, but really there's such an organized like mechanical working to everything. We don't have like planets aren't slamming into one another. We're able to calculate like astrologically, astronomically what's happening. And so I really see that energy is wanting to come here, like where things don't, when I think that chaos is necessary if like you're in, like the number 4, go back to numerology. Like the number 4 is like 4 legs on a table, 4 wheels on a car. You have 4 to like have that security and that stability, like 4 at the base of the house for the foundation. But like, what if that like house or that security or that foundation isn't working anymore? Like, what if we're in a stagnant structure, say patriarchy or capitalism? Like there's a structure to it and it works. Like there's a structure that's working. It's not a broken system. It's working for the ones it was built for, but it's stagnant. The energy is like dead. It needs to be broken up. So we do need some of that 5 chaos energy to like come in. So I think it's really important to have chaos too, but when things are all chaotic, like nobody knows what to do. So I really think that like dragon energy is coming in to help us like organize, like back to that coding. It helps us like organize things in the way that is right for us, not how we're being told, not like what your boss tells you to do or what your parent tells you to do, your priest or the president or whatever. It's like what your body's telling you to do, what your nervous system, like we're all on a different like speed. I kind of think like each one of us is a song and each song is different. It's got a different like melody, it's got a different cadence and flow. And so you don't need to be like, just because like your neighbor's out there like running around doing a million things, if you don't feel that, you don't need to do that. We don't all
Yeah.
need to do things at the same time. You know, all flowers bloom like all year long. And so I really think that dragon energy is going to allow us to like maybe even awaken that like 98.5 like uncoded DNA that is totally not junk. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, so I love it. You know, I only know like a tiny bit, you know, there's so much information and I just know what I know from experiencing, but yeah, it's really fascinating. When I was in witchcraft school, we worked with a lot of dragons. We worked with like the green dragon to help heal greed, and we worked with the red dragon to help with like blood disease, and like we worked with a lot of dragon energy there, but like
Yeah.
it was very earth based. And so I think that like, you know, as above so below, the dragons are kind of like everywhere. And like, you know, to me, like we are the dragons, like we are the dragons, we are the ETs, like we are all the things that we're searching for. We are all of our guides and guardians, wise ancestors, like it's us. And like, and we're the ones kind of like leading the way right now. And then we'll pass the torch on to like others. So yeah, I think it's very cool. I like all the like different like awakenings and things that people are talking about. Feels like not a lot is off limits. Like people are letting their like weirdo-ness like shine through. So
yes, it's true. Which is great because like it's in that spot, it's in those like little places that make you feel like a weirdo that like our true genius resides.
Totally. I know there's a fine line between like madness and brilliance. And I think that when you can really walk those, like hold the two worlds together, like really be the veil, like don't even like be the veil between the worlds, like, because you want to bring in that like void information into like our present reality. I mean, that to me is like what artists do. They like reach through the edges of time and like they bring that information in, whether it's like ancient or futuristic. At some point, it all becomes the same. And there's so
be the veil.
Yeah, be the veil. I know. I feel Pluto in the first house. I'm sure you can feel it. Sometimes you're like, I am the veil. So yeah, I just think there's so much for us to know. And even just the fact that people fight over like, is it this or this? I'm kind of really bored with the binary world. I just it doesn't give a lot of ways for the energy to move. If you have like point A and point B and you're like fighting, it's just like the energy just like pings back and forth and just creates friction
in the middle.
Yeah, it's like give it at least a third point, like add a trinity to it or something, you know, to like let the energy move. It's like, I don't know. I mean, it's also we're moving closer and closer to the Pluto return, like at least here in the US. And so people are gonna fight. People are gonna fight and divide. That's like part of it. And so you know,
with this past year with like the Saturn Uranus square and the Pluto Eris square, like I tend to like believe in a benevolent universe. So even though from my limited perspective, I can't see what all of this like discord is bringing us, I have to assume that it has some sort of function in the evolution, you know?
Yeah. Is your cat like screaming?
It's my baby. He's running around.
Oh, it's your baby. I thought you said like Eris, and all of a sudden I heard screaming, and I was like, wow, like Eris is like, I'm here.
Yeah,
you know?
Hello.
I love Eris. I love Eris so much.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested too because you know, I was always taught that like whenever you're doing a reading or anything like that, if like strange noises pop up, to pay attention to them. And I've noticed my phone going off a couple times, and so I'm curious to watch this back and see what points got like little dings.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I love when there's like something happens. It's all part of it, you know, it's definitely all part of it. So yeah, so much going on. I mean, I really think 2022 is going to be a year of more balance. That's kind of like what I've been like seeing. It's like 2020 was like a 4, which is the Emperor. 2021 was 5, which is the Hierophant. 2022, we go into the Lovers. So I really see it as like we're balancing these energies. And I mean, I also think there's going to be different reality. Everyone's got a different reality. Like it's already been existing. You know, people might believe like, you have to go to church and that's the only way to like salvation, and that's their like reality, and like then somebody else might be an atheist, or like, you know, there's so many different realities and consciousnesses going on all at once, but like, can we all like coexist together and like not want to like destroy one another because we have different opinions? Like that to me is like
that's going to be
next
a major
year
theme of 2022. There's going to be something that brings us all together, something that makes us realize like, oh shit, we are actually all connected, and all of this fighting that we've been doing, like we actually have to come together now. Now what it is that brings us all together, who knows? Could be a little bit of a crapshoot, but it's going to be something.
Totally. And I think a lot of people are like waiting for something like cataclysmic. There's this like fantastical like desire for apocalypse that I've noticed for people. Like they're like, people are waiting for something to happen. And it's like, I think the more we like wait for either like the savior or like the ETs, or we're waiting for something, it's like we're disempowering ourselves. It's like we don't need to wait for something. We're the ones here to, that's why we're here.
Yeah,
that's why
we decide to work together now.
Yeah, that's why
the
our
amount of power we could have if we were just like, oh no, like let's stop fighting. Let's stop fighting and just work together, you know?
Yeah, like, you don't have to be best friends with everybody.
A crap ton of like strikes and stuff next year of workers being like, nope, actually, oh right, we have all the power, you know?
Yeah, I'm excited. I think I'm feeling more energy, at least for myself, because I'm coming out of my Pluto square, because I've been my Pluto square has been completely in alignment with like the pandemic. And so I mean, I'm kind of glad, because like I'm not missing out on anything, because nothing was really happening. But now it's like I feel like something more is going to happen in 2022. Like there's a bit more energy because we've been doing it for so long. So we'll see. I don't usually do like predictions, but I do get like these hits, at least for myself, that there's going to be like more movement and more creation, and that sounds exciting to me because I've been like in a bathrobe for 2 years. So
well, fabulous.
Yes.
Okay, well, I guess we've gone almost an hour and a half now, so I suppose we should wrap it up.
Okay.
But okay, so if people want to find you, what do you got going on?
Okay, so if people want to find me, I have my Instagram. My handle is Starship Moonbeam. If people want to find me on Facebook, my name is Verone Bright.
Okay.
I have a TikTok. It's Starship Moonbeam. If you want to contact me through my website is VeroneOracleAcupuncture.com.
Okay.
And yeah, like find me. Find me out. I'm out there. Yeah. I'm always taking new clients. Like I have a whole different like array of things that I do, from like oracle work to Akashic records to like energy movement. If you're in Asheville, North Carolina, you can book an acupuncture session with me. And starting the new year, I'm going to be really diving into my astrological work. So I'm excited to do like, I've been really just doing it a lot for myself and for like friends, but now I'm like taking like astrological clients to really like dive into the charts, and like I'm gonna weave in mythology to like everything. So yeah.
And did I see that you were doing some mentorships?
Oh yeah, I am. I'm doing a mentorship. I limit it at 3 people a month. It's a month to month. We're going through, following the sun, going through the zodiacal wheel and aligning to the cosmic energy of whatever being, you know, like right now I've been in like Scorpio and Ophiuchus, and all about like an initiation into the serpent mysteries. It's a self-initiation. I'm just the liaison showing people the gateways. It's a self-initiation into what the serpent information, the serpent mysteries, the serpent healing means for my clients. I work with Medusa. I mean, I work with other serpent beings too, but I was initiated by Medusa. Like I have a client right now who's really working a lot with Kali and with Shiva. So it's like, you know, there's no right or wrong way to do it, but a lot of like one-on-ones and guided meditations to go into the stargates to do these DNA activations, a lot of altar work. Like I'm doing the same magic at my house that my clients are. So it's a journey. It's a deep dive journey. It will cause change. And so yeah, if you're ready for that type of workings, like I'm calling it like serpent to the stars. So this all the way from our DNA, all the way out to the stars, like activating it all so that we can come in and be a more like sovereign empowered being and live the life that you were intended to live, instead of like feeling so limited. I think a lot of times we feel so limited, like we can't do certain things. And
Mhm.
I think that we actually can do everything that we came here to do. So, yeah. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you for talking with me today. It's been lovely.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
And I guess I'll see you around, but yeah, thanks.
Yeah. I'll see you in the interwebs.
In the interwebs, yes. In the digital universe.
In the digital, yes, it's all becoming the digital
In the
universe.
metaverse.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to study like cryptocurrency right now, and I'm just like,
yeah, that's going to be a good idea to get into this next year before 2023.
yes, I'm diving into it. It definitely feels complex, but I'm diving into it.
All right. Cool. Well, I'll
Cool.
see you around. Thank you.
Okay. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.